Let's talk about why we tell stories. I teach a college course called The Power of Story. I've taught it for about 10 years, and I continue to be fascinated by the question of why we tell stories. What power do they have over us as humans? The fact is that stories have been told by almost every human culture from the beginning of human history. So there must be something to them that goes beyond sheer entertainment. So why do you think we tell stories? It might be a really interesting question to talk about with your book club. First of all, think about how many different kinds of stories there are. Of course, usually what we're reading with our book club is novels, but there are lots of different kinds of stories that human history encompasses. So, for example, myths, fairy tales, legends. We even tell stories in video games and advertising. We tell family stories to each other. We tell stories to our friends every day. So each of these kinds of stories might have a different function for us, and it's interesting to think about what that function might be. Scientists have also started asking this question about what power stories have over us, and their research into the biological effects of stories is really interesting. I want to share with you just one piece of research from a neuroscientist named Paul Zak, who's at the Claremont Graduate University in California. He does research on oxytocin, which is a neurochemical produced in the brain, and his research was based on trust and finding that oxytocin was created in the brain when trust was created between individuals. So he started wondering, would oxytocin be a key to unlocking some secrets of the effect that stories have on us? We all know that we can have a physical response to stories, sweaty palms or a racing heart rate or even crying. What Dr. Zak found was that there is a correlation between oxytocin in the brain and empathy when we respond to stories. Our nervous system actually responds to stories in measurable ways. The interesting thing is that we're not so good at articulating that. When people were asked to rate the impact of a story on them, they weren't so good at identifying the stories that actually had a measurable biological effect on them. In other words, our brains know more than we do. You can ask this question about the power that stories have on us in a number of ways, biologically, psychologically, socially, but you can also ask it in two different directions. Why is the teller of the story compelled to tell it? And why is the listener or the reader compelled to take it in? Researchers and theorists have come up with countless ways to answer this question about the power that stories have over us, but it's still a wide open question and a really interesting one for your book club to address. Why not take a 1-month break from reading a particular book and work on this question together? Maybe assign a different genre of story to different people in your book club. Have somebody read a few fairy tales, have somebody else read a few myths, have someone else read a few American legends, and then come back with some possible answers to that question about why we tell stories and what power they have over us. It's a huge question and one that keeps me and my students thinking year after year. I hope you'll take it on, and if you do, leave a comment below and let us know what you came up with. Read on!